Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Empowered Living 101. My name is Tia Christensen with Dream Sculpting Institute, and I'm so happy to be here with you this afternoon. So those of you who are already here live, thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to join the conversation live. And for those of you who are in the replay, watching the replay, thank you for taking time out of your day to join the conversation as well. I really do appreciate it. And like I said, my name's Tia Christensen with Dream Sculpting Institute. And for those of you that I have not met, I am an energy empowerment coach. And so what does that mean? It means that I work with busy professionals and executives, guiding them along the path to doubling their energy, not just physical energy, but overall energetic alignment, so that they can have clarity of thought, peak performance, and optimum health. Today, we're going to talk about finding sleep. I know sleep can be very elusive. And before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about sleep and empowered living and just what does an empowered living mean? And for me, and in the way that I work with my clients in the context of this conversation, empowered living means having trust in your inner guidance, your inner wisdom, that gut feeling that we all have. It means having the energy we need, which we just talked about, physical energy and energetic alignment. And it means having accountability, not only accountability to ourselves, but accountability to others and our colleagues, our families, and sometimes we need an accountability partner. And we often grab a family member or someone we work with or our spouse or our significant other. And, like a lot of us, we hire coaches to be our accountability partner. Empowered living also means having the mindset, all of these things needed to take empowered action to make change in our life. And not just any change, but real change. Change that is in alignment with how we want to show up in this world, how we want to live each and every day, and how we want to feel each and every day. So I'd love for this to be interactive. I always go back and answer the comments after the replay, and I will also answer comments and questions during the live session here. So please say hello when you jump on or in the replay. Let me know where you're from in the comments section. Feel free to pop any questions or comments in there. And I would really, really love to know what empowered living means for you. So please join the conversation. So we're going to jump into today's topic, which is finding sleep. Have you ever had a hard time sleeping? Are there times that sleep during the night is just elusive, as I call it? Have a hard time falling asleep, you wake up in the middle of the night, you can't fall back to sleep. And what does having the proper or the right amount of sleep mean to you? That's very different for every person. Does getting a good night's rest mean simply pushing through? And because there's just so much to do in a day. And anyway, you know what? We'll sleep when we're dead, right? And sleeping's for other people. I don't need it because I have too much to do. I'm a woman in charge. I'm a man in charge. I'm an executive. I have a family. My family depends on me for everything. Does that sound familiar to you? I'm sure it does. Oftentimes, we convince ourselves that we don't even need any more than 5 hours of sleep anyway, right? I'm sure you can relate. But what's true is that sleep is a natural resource that's one of the most easy resources to get to help us with our energy. And how crazy is that? We're continually battling to not sleep or to get to sleep or to fall back to sleep. It's this continuous sort of battle that we have, this cyclical thing that can just drive us crazy. So what if getting the right amount of sleep for you and your uniqueness, your unique body, the uniquely person that you are, was the real solution to your energy crisis. What if hearing and honoring our natural sleep pattern was the real solution? As many of you may know, back in 2011, I think, yeah, it was 2011, I was diagnosed with adrenal blowout. Not adrenal fatigue, not adrenal depletion, but blowout. And at the time, I really had no idea what the heck that meant or how serious it actually was. I used to work in the music industry. I was a producer of music festivals and custom events and theatrical presentations, and traveled all over the country and parts of Europe, and was in Tokyo and Japan producing events. And it was just a matter of the way our work was. Endless days on the road, long hours, high stress. And I went through an 8-month period of time where I averaged maybe 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep a night. And this went on for months, like I said, about 8 months. I came back from being on the road and was excited to have some time to rejuvenate. And usually it's a little tired, we all are. I'm sure you can relate, if you've had a long project or there's a report due or you have a meeting that you're preparing for. We go through these long periods of time where we really push ourselves. We push ourselves to get all of this work done, to be leaders for our team members and our colleagues, and to make sure that we have everything in proper order, right? 12, 15 hours a day. And that might go on for a couple of days, maybe a week tops. Think about this going on for months at a time. So I got home and crashed and burned. Could not get enough sleep, which sort of wasn't unusual. There would be periods of time that I would go through really needing to catch up, quote unquote, on my sleep, as if it was a battery that I could charge back in and it would replenish itself. And this time, all that sleep wasn't working. And that extra cup of coffee wasn't working. And that cookie or that dark chocolate in the late afternoon certainly wasn't doing the trick either. Finally, a dear friend of mine talked me into going to her acupuncturist. And I was a little nervous because I don't like needles and they really freaked me out. And she said she promised me it was going to be okay. And I thank that which is greater than us, universe, God, spirit, whatever the name is that you like to call that guiding omnipresent being or beings in our universe that guide us along the path. I am so thankful that I trusted my friend and went and saw this doctor. She was a medical doctor as well as an acupuncturist. And we were sitting there, and it couldn't have been more than 10 minutes into the conversation when she said, Tia, I'm really sure that you have adrenal fatigue or depletion. And I said, okay. And we talked more and more about my diet and how much sleep was I really getting and how was I feeling. And I was feeling horrible. I was cranky. I was nauseous all the time. And prior to seeing this doctor, nothing was helping. I was trying to hydrate. I thought it was a dehydration issue. I was taking extra vitamins. I was trying to eat different foods. Nothing was working. And she said, I really do believe you have adrenal blowout. Let's take a test. Let's figure it out. And I went in for my first acupuncture test that day. Just how bad was this adrenal blowout? Like I said, I had no idea the gravity of the situation. 2 months later, when I went back, after having weekly acupuncture treatments, being on a Chinese herb regimen, and literally sleeping for as long as I needed to for 2 months straight, my doctor came in and she was very excited and very proud of me. And she just said, congratulations, I'm so happy. And I said, okay, well, what does the test say? I was so excited, like I must be like A++ because I'm an overachiever, type A personality, so I must be like off the charts energized. And she said, this is wonderful news. You are now registering on the very bottom of the bell curve for normal. Yeah, let that sink in for a moment. My test results after 2 months of treatment and 2 months of rest I was still working during this period of time, but I was really structuring my day that I could take naps and rest when I really needed to. After 2 months, I finally registered on the bottom of the bell curve for normal. And it was in that moment that I thought to myself, and my heart broke a little bit. And I thought, where was I before when I was originally diagnosed with this blowout? Now I know why she said blowout, not fatigue, not depletion. This was my body screaming at me that it needed attention, that my health was at risk. No wonder I was nauseous. I wasn't even holding food down prior to seeing my doctor. I was cranky. I couldn't get up. 12, 15 hours of sleep minimum prior to seeing my doctor. This was serious. And then it dawned on me that all of those times during the last 8 months that I had poured myself a cup of coffee in the afternoon just to get that jolt of awakeness, or had part of a soda, or had a dessert for lunch, because when you're on the road and you eat catering, there's always dessert and there's always lots of carbs and lots of sugar. And I was using that as a crutch to push me through the afternoon because I always had a long night. And every time I poured a cup of something that was caffeinated or sugar-filled, I was really pouring myself a cup of body meltdown. And I was successful at that. So there I was, wake-up call. I call it my Arianna Huffington moment. Fast forward to 2014 and doing much better, really monitoring my energy level, changing my food habits, getting rest when I needed, but still traveling a whole lot and under a lot of stress. And I was in one of the countless airports during the summer, and there was Arianna Huffington's book Thrive on one of those end caps, as they call it, those stands in the bookstore when you're running from gate to gate. And those of you who travel a lot, you know exactly what I mean. And I saw this book and it jumped out at me. I have no idea why, but I went in and I had a long flight, so I grabbed it, got on my flight, flipped open to the first few pages of Arianna's book Thrive, and tears came to my eyes and I started to cry. It even makes me emotional to this day. Finally, someone was talking about how there's a different part of the metric for success, and that we also have to thrive in order to be successful. And that should always be a part of our matrix in how we define our success. And nobody was really talking about that. So think about how many times we've worked on a project, we go in to work, we're on a conference call, we go into a meeting. How many times, and I know I've done it and I've said it, or how many colleagues have you had that have said, gosh, you know, I only got 4 or 5 hours of sleep last night, but I'm on my second cup of coffee. I'm really ready and rearing to go. I'm ready for this project. And when we say that to ourselves and we say that out loud, how often do we know deep down inside that honestly, we're not really at our peak performance level because we're groggy in the mind and we're sluggish and we don't really feel that great? It happens all the time. I know it's happened to me, so I'm sure it's happened to you. Please, pop a comment in the comment section and let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you can relate to this. So all of those times that we're pushing through and we're not incorporating thriving in our health and sleep, we are not operating in a place that is coming from clarity. We're not really able to tap into the skill sets that we possess for peak performance. And we certainly aren't setting up our health for being in an optimum place. We're depleting ourselves. So there we are, pushing through, grabbing sugar and cups of coffee and energy drinks, just trying anything we can, ignoring what our body is telling us, which is at the very basic, we need sleep. And I thought, it's the fall, we're headed into the holidays, which is such a busy time and it's a joyful time, but we push ourselves a lot. The end of the calendar year is coming. We have the last quarter of the business cycle. There is so much to do. But here we are in fall, which is entering our time of hibernation, our body's natural cycle for needing to rest and rejuvenate. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening when we sleep and why it's so important. At the very basic level, when we're sleeping, our body rejuvenates itself. We're not just lying there dormant. Literally, our internal organs are replenishing themselves. So important. Without proper internal organ functionality, we crash. Our bodies melt down. And that's what happened to me back in 2011. Complete body meltdown because I was not taking care of myself. And I've been ignoring the signs for months. I can't tell you how many signs now that I look back on it. And, give me a thumbs up if you can relate to that too. When you think back upon some time frames, when you were just exhausted, there were so many signs that we ignore, we push through. We have deadlines to meet. I had clients that I needed to make sure were happy. I'm sure you can relate, right? So here we are. Not only when we sleep do our internal organs replenish themselves, but it gives our adrenal glands the opportunity to produce more adrenaline. And for women, that's a really different chemical makeup than it is for men. And in fact, adrenal fatigue and depletion is still happening in epidemic proportions for women. It's just our physiological makeup. It doesn't mean that we can't do all that we're doing. It just means that we're physiologically and at a DNA level haven't sort of caught up to this nonstop environment that we live in. And more importantly, we haven't adjusted our mindset to understanding that sleep is a critical piece of our overall success. So back to what happens when we're sleeping. We have internal organ functionality rejuvenating itself. We have our adrenal glands able to produce adrenaline. And the other thing that happens is that the gray matter in our brain expands. And when our gray matter expands, we have better clarity of thought. So there's a lot more that happens during our sleep, and I won't go into all of those details here. If you're looking for more information, you can certainly Google it, but there is Arianna Huffington 2 years ago, I believe it's 2016, also came out with her second book dedicated to sleep called The Sleep Revolution. And in the back it's really a compendium, really like an encyclopedia of sources, of studies. So if you'd like to dig in a little bit more around the science and the studies that have been done, that's a great resource all in one place. Of course, Google is a great resource as well. And don't just take my word for it on how important sleep is. For you sports fans, I'm sure that you've been reading about sleep and the need for proper sleep and a lot of the dedication that basketball teams have been devoting to sleep. In fact, it was last year during March Madness that Stanford University started to study the correlation between the basketball teams making their free throws and how much sleep they got. So that's a great study that you can dig into. My recollection, the Cavaliers started monitoring their team's sleep patterns, how much sleep they were getting, and they found a direct correlation to the number of baskets that were being made. Tom Brady, probably one of the most famous people out there in sports today, and really well known for being absolutely committed to getting to his sleep pattern and maximizing the amount of his sleep. How many Super Bowls have the Patriots won? And then there's Michael Phelps. He also has held many interviews and talked a lot about his need for over 7 hours, minimum of 7 hours of sleep, more than 7 hours every night to be at his peak performance. So if athletes and their coaches are all recognizing the importance of sleep because they need it for their peak performance and clarity of thought, what makes us think that we're any different? We're in March Madness during different parts of times of our lives. We're in the playoffs when we're working towards a big project or we have something going on. Those of you who are at home with children, you're in March Madness all the time because you always have to be at your higher energy level. So let's talk a little bit about how do we find sleep? Because I said earlier, gosh, it sure is elusive for me at times. And I want to give you some helpful hints that I have found have really solved the sleep elusiveness for me and ways that I have been able to find sleep. The other thing that I want to talk about now too is let's shift over into how much sleep do we really need? On average, every single person needs between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every single night. And what is the best way to determine this? Over the weekend or during the week or when you can make time until you get your empirical proof about how this will impact you, go to sleep and don't set your alarm. Wake up when your body naturally wakes you up the next day and see how much sleep that was. Now, I'm not talking after a big long project or you've been traveling or out on the road. You know, during your normal work week, get to sleep extra early. Some of you are pushing it like, you know, you're out, we're working until 9 o'clock at night, then we go out, we might have a cocktail or some late dinner. But try this on. 8 o'clock at night, wind down. Start winding down, putting things away, don't answer any emails, go to sleep by 9 and see what time your body actually wakes you up the next morning. If you're concerned about getting up on time, go to sleep at 8 and just see what time you naturally wake up. And that is your body's internal clock telling you, hey, this is how much sleep I need on average. So it's a great solve there. And then in terms of really making sure that we're able to find sleep on a nightly basis, I just mentioned it, and that was winding down before bedtime. Those of you with children do it with your kids all the time or when they were small, right? There's bath time, there's quiet time. We start saying, let's put our toys away, let's quiet down, it's time to get ready for bed. And we have a whole conversation which lasts at least an hour around getting ready for bed. We have our bath, we get our pajamas on, we read a story, and we're just winding down our energy. Why not give that same gift to ourselves? Come up with some kind of ceremony that really signals to your body that it's time to go to sleep. And that really means, hey, after a certain point of time, we're not answering any more emails. We're not hopping on social media. It can wait until tomorrow, I promise you. And besides, when we're tired and we're exhausted, and now it's late and we're trying to get ready for bed, we're a little cranky, aren't we, when we're answering those emails or those social media posts. We're not really operating at our optimum peak performance. We don't really have clarity of thought. So winding down before bed. If you're someone who can leave your electronics in another room because you don't use your phone for your alarm clock, that is optimum. Just take any electronics out of your room, anything that's possible. That's also a number one element. If you know about Feng Shui or into Feng Shui, they say clean out the clutter in your bedroom. Make sure your bedroom's nice and tidy. Close the doors to your closet. Don't have a lot of books or any books in your bedroom. Make sure there are no electronics, like I just mentioned. So just power down. Really have a ceremony around getting ready for bed. And you know, I spent years sleeping in t-shirts that were from all of the festivals that I worked. So was I ever really not working? Because at night, I was sleeping in what represented my work. I started to change that and bought some really nice pajamas for myself. And during the winter months, I live here in New York City. I have some really cozy flannel pajamas that keep me nice and toasty warm. And during the summer months, I wear something cooler. But it really makes me feel like I've made that shift from my day into I'm getting ready for sleep. all of a sudden, and I can't think of the name all of a sudden, an eye patch, or a sleep patch. And get something that's really luxurious and feels really gentle and special on your eyes. And some of them you can even heat, and that feels really luxurious and very nourishing. A couple of Facebook Lives ago, I talked about nourishment. So all of these things before bedtime are ways to nourish ourselves into relaxing before we go to bed. So there we are. We've got our pajamas on, the electronics out, we've cleared the clutter out of our bedroom, and we've got, a nice eye pillow, maybe some essential oils, and we're relaxing. We're relaxing. We're breathing deep. But oh my gosh, monkey mind jumps in. Good old monkey mind. I certainly have it. How about you? And let me know if you know what I'm talking about. Those endless thoughts that just as we're about ready to go to sleep, start jumping in and planning our next day. You know what my number one solve for the monkey mind and the endless tasks that start running through my mind? Pad of paper on my nightstand. And nice big pad of paper, not a small pad, and I don't even turn on the light. And I pick up a pencil or a pen or whatever writing utensil I have there, and I sit up and I take it and I write out everything that I'm thinking. And what's true is that I can always read my writing the next morning. I don't turn the light on because as soon as I turn the light on, that triggers my brain into thinking that it's time to get up. So pad of paper, number one. Deep breathing. Yep, breathing is such a fix for so many different things. It's all around mindset, calming our bodies down, getting our heart rate to relax. So just start with a count of 5, deep breath in. Really filling us up, and count of 5 out. And just do that over and over again until your mind really starts to relax itself. The other thing I do is I run through a gratitude list. What am I grateful for in this very moment? And sometimes it's hard to get there because we're so busy stressing out about what we need to do tomorrow or what happened today that we forget to be grateful. And I talked about this on last week's Facebook Live, which was around locking in new habits. It works in this same way too, because when we focus on what did go well and what we are grateful for, it relaxes the mind. So start running through all the things that did go well. Hey, you got up that morning. You made it to work. Let's say there weren't any delays on the train. There were no traffic jams. You had a great breakfast. You had a great lunch. You got a wonderful text from a friend that you love, or a family member, or your kids reached out, or a colleague said something that was encouraging, or your boss. Countless things we can be grateful for. If like in New York City, when we're taking the subway and the buses or the bus, when it's cold and rainy out, it can be really hard to get from point A to point B. How about those days when it's sunny? Even though it's still cold, it's sunny out. And when it's raining, we can still be thankful for the water because we need it. So just all the simple things, and then dig deeper into more things that you can be grateful for. So as we wind up here on today's Facebook Live, just talking about finding sleep and some tools for that. Winding down before bedtime. Perfect way to get ready for bed. Make it a ceremony. Have some comfortable pajamas that are specifically for bedtime. An eye pillow, essential oils, heated eye pillow, making sure that our bedroom's cleaned up. Whatever electronics we can, if you're not using your phone for your alarm, put it in the other room. Close that closet door. Don't have too many books in your room. These are all things that will work for you. And when monkey mind jumps in there, grab that pad of paper and write out all that you're thinking, the things that you want to remember. Breathe in deeply and just list out your gratitude, the things that went well that day and everything that you're grateful for. Just say it over and over again until you fall back to sleep. So I'd love to know what works for you. How do you find sleep when you're having a tough time? And I would like to thank everyone who joined the live Facebook. And for those of you who are watching in replay, I so appreciate you being here. Please be sure to say hello. Let me know where you're from. And let me know what your thoughts are on what you feel is empowered living. And join the conversation. Don't just sit by there, jump right in. And I'd love it if you joined my community to further this conversation. You can head to dreamsculptinginstitute.com and click on the Hook Me Up tab and join my newsletter where I'll send you updates and unique offers, and you'll immediately get a download that's top tips for how to double your energy. And once again, I'd like to thank you for joining in. I so look forward to seeing you in the future. I will not have a Facebook Live next week, but we'll be returning the week after. So have a wonderful day, and may the light illuminate your way.